Aisha Khan pushed open the glass door of the small tea shop on Mall Road every morning at exactly 7. The bell above jingled softly, almost shy, as if it knew she preferred quiet. She wore long sleeves even in Lahore's sticky heat, but the scars peeked out at her wrists and along the side of her neck like pale rivers on brown earth. Customers noticed. They always did. The young group at table 3, university students with expensive phones and louder laughs, watched her as she balanced the tray of steaming chai and parathas. One boy, maybe 20, leaned toward his friends and whispered just loud enough. "Look at her arms. What happened? Car accident? Or maybe she fell into a fire trying to cook?" His friends snickered, covering their mouths like children caught stealing sweets. Aisha heard. She always heard. But she kept her eyes on the cups, placing them down with steady hands. "Your order," she said in a calm voice, no trace of anger. The boy looked up, embarrassed for half a second, then shrugged. "Sorry, Auntie. Just curious." She walked away, wiping the counter with the same cloth she'd used for 10 years. The owner, Uncle Rafiq, an old man with kind eyes, shook his head from behind the register. "Ignore them, Beta. People talk because their own lives are empty." Aisha gave a small smile. "I'm used to it." But, inside, something tightened. The scars weren't from carelessness. They came from a roadside blast in Helmand, years ago, when she was 26 and serving as a combat medic with the UN peacekeeping force attached to Pakistani troops. The IED had ripped through the convoy. She remembered the heat first, blinding, like the sun itself had fallen on her. Then, the screams. She dragged 3 soldiers out of the burning vehicle, her sleeves melting into her skin, before the pain knocked her unconscious. Doctors said she was lucky. The burns covered 30% of her body, but she lived. The men she saved lived too. After discharge, she came home to Lahore. No parades. No medals on her chest. Just medical papers, a small pension, and skin that would never look the same. She chose the tea shop because it was simple. No questions. No pity. Just work, tea, and the hum of the city. That afternoon, a tall man in his 60s entered. Gray hair, straight back, wearing a faded olive green jacket even though it wasn't cold. He had the walk of someone who had spent decades standing at attention. He took the corner table, ordered black tea, no sugar, and opened a newspaper. Aisha served him without a word. As she placed the cup down, her sleeve rode up slightly. The edge of a tattoo showed faint ink of a crescent moon and crossed swords, the old unit insignia of the medical corps, half hidden under twisted scar tissue. The man glanced at it. His hand paused on the cup. His eyes lifted to her face, then back to the mark. He said nothing. Aisha felt the stare. She pulled her sleeve down quickly and walked away. But something in his look lingered, recognition, not judgment. The students at table 3 kept laughing. One girl mimicked Aisha's careful walk. Maybe she thinks she's a model with those lines. More laughter. The old man folded his newspaper slowly. He stood, left exact change on the table, and left. Aisha watched him go, wondering why his silence felt heavier than the usual mockery. Days passed. The old man returned every morning. His name, she learned from Uncle Rafiq, was Colonel Asim Rayman, retired Army Medical Corps. He never asked for special treatment, just tea and quiet. Sometimes he read. Sometimes he watched the street. Aisha avoided his table when she could. She didn't want questions. She had answered enough in hospitals, in interviews, in the eyes of family who didn't know what to say. But one rainy Tuesday, the shop was almost empty. Thunder rolled outside. The students stayed away. Colonel Raymond sat alone. When Aisha brought his tea, he spoke for the first time. "Your tattoo," he said softly. "Crescent and swords. 2010 to 2015 deployment?" Aisha froze. Her fingers tightened on the tray. "It's old," she answered. He nodded once.
I trained medics for that rotation. Many didn't come back whole.
She turned to leave, but, he continued.
The scars around it, they're from the same fire, aren't they?
Aisha looked at him. His eyes held no pity, only understanding.
How did you know? She asked. Seen it before.
The way the burns wrap around the ink.
You got the tattoo first, then, the blast tried to erase it.
She swallowed.
It almost did.
He gestured to the chair opposite him.
Sit for a minute. Rain's keeping customers away.
She hesitated, then, sat. For the first time in years, someone looked at her scars and saw a story instead of ugliness. He told her about his own service, treating soldiers in Siachen, in Waziristan.
We lose pieces of ourselves, he said. Some visible. Some not.
Aisha stared at her hands.
People here see only the outside. They call me clumsy. Broken.
They laugh. Colonel Raymond leaned forward.
They laugh because they don't know what courage looks like when it walks in for tea.
She gave a small laugh, bitter, but real.
Courage? I just did my job.
Your job saved lives under fire.
That's not ordinary. For a moment, silence settled between them like an old friend. Rain tapped the windows.
Aisha felt something loosen inside her chest, something that had been tight for too long.
Later that week, the students returned. Their jokes were the same.
But, this time, Colonel Raymond was there. When one boy whispered loudly about the scarred auntie, the colonel stood. His voice carried across the shop without raising. Those scars, he said clearly, are from pulling burning soldiers from a wrecked convoy in Helmand. She carried 2 on her back while her own skin melted. The tattoo you glimpse is her unit mark earned in service.
So laugh if you want. But, know who you're laughing at.
The shop went quiet. The boy's face turned red.
He mumbled an apology. The others looked away.
Aisha stood behind the counter, eyes wide. Colonel Raymond sat back down as if nothing happened. But, when she brought his next tea, her hand shook slightly, not from fear, but from something new.
Gratitude.
Word spread slowly.
First among the regulars.
Then, to neighbors.
Uncle Rafiq started telling the story proudly. Our Aisha isn't ordinary, he said. She is a hero who serves tea now. People began looking at her differently. Some with respect. Some with curiosity. A few still whispered, but the laughter faded.
Colonel Raymond came daily. He brought small things, old photographs from his deployments, a book about field medicine. He shared stories. She shared pieces of hers.
One evening, after closing, she showed him the full extent.
In the back room, under dim light, she rolled up her sleeves. The burns twisted across her forearms, chest, and back. The tattoo sat in the center of the worst damage, like a flag planted in ruined ground. He studied it quietly.
You kept it visible, he said. Most would cover it.
I didn't want to hide who I was, she replied. Even when it hurt to remember.
He nodded. That's strength.
Over weeks, their conversations deepened. He told her about the guilt he carried, medics who died despite his hands. She told him about the nights she woke screaming, smelling smoke that wasn't there.
They became friends. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind that understands silence.
Then, came the day a group of young veterans visited the shop. They were from a local support group Colonel Raymond knew. One of them, a man with a prosthetic leg, recognized her immediately. You're Medic Khan, he said. From the convoy incident.
You saved my friend. Aisha blinked. I don't remember names sometimes. He smiled. He remembers yours.
He says you refused to leave until everyone was out. The group sat.
They talked for hours. No mockery. Only respect.
One woman, also scarred, touched Aisha's arm gently. Your scars match mine. They tell the same story. Aisha felt tears come, tears she hadn't allowed for years. That night, alone in her small room, she looked at her reflection. The scars were still there. But they no longer felt like shame. They felt like proof. Months later, the tea shop became known. Not for fancy drinks, but for stories. Veterans stopped by. Families brought their sons and daughters to meet Aisha. She served tea, listened, and sometimes shared. Colonel Raymond watched it all with quiet pride. He told her once, "You gave them back something they lost, pride in service." She shook her head. "You gave me back mine." One afternoon, a TV crew arrived. Someone had tipped them off. They wanted to interview the scarred heroine of Mall Road. Aisha refused at first. "I don't want cameras." But Colonel Raymond convinced her. "Tell them. Not for fame. For the ones who come after. So no one else gets ridiculed for doing right." The interview was simple. She spoke softly. She showed the tattoo. She explained the blast without drama. "I was just doing what any of us would," she said. The story aired. Messages poured in. Old comrades found her. One soldier she saved called from Canada. "I never thanked you properly," he said. "Thank you for my life." Aisha cried that night, not from pain, but from release. The students who once laughed returned. The boy who started it all stood awkwardly. "Ma'am. I was wrong. I'm sorry." She looked at him. "You are young. Learn. That's enough." He left with his head down, but changed. The shop grew busier. Uncle Rafiq hired help. Aisha trained them. She still wore long sleeves most days, but sometimes she rolled them up. The scars were part of her now, visible, unashamed. 5 years passed. Aisha never sought attention, but it found her. Schools invited her to speak. Veteran groups honored her quietly. She accepted with the same calm she used to serve tea. Colonel Raymond grew older. His steps slowed. But he still came every morning. One day, he didn't. Aisha found him at home, peaceful in sleep. His funeral was simple: soldiers, medics, friends. She stood at the grave, wearing her old uniform jacket. The tattoo showed on her wrist as she placed flowers. Afterward, she returned to the shop. The bell jingled. Customers came. Life continued. But now, when someone stared at her scars, she met their eyes. Sometimes she smiled. Sometimes she told the short version. "These? They remind me I survived." The young people listened differently now. The laughter was gone. In its place was respect. Aisha Khan remained ordinary in many ways, pouring tea, wiping counters, living quietly. But her scars and her tattoo told a different truth. They spoke of a woman who ran toward fire when others ran away. And, in the end, that's what mattered. Not what people saw at first glance, but what they understood when they looked closer. The tea shop on Mall Road stayed open. The bell still jingled. And every time it did, Aisha remembered, true heroes don't need applause. They just need to keep going, one cup, one day, one quiet act of courage at a time.